How are you now? Occasional talking head for smallcaps.com.au, James Whelan.au. We are talking about some amazing things here on Small Caps. Now, one of the companies that we know and love, Redstone Resources, have made an announcement. It is earlier today. I want this to be out and uploaded on the lines. It's sleeves up. We're getting it done out here, and that's what happens. Now, you could get some CEO or MD to come in and give us this, and give us the. I prefer to talk to the geos myself. The hands are not so dirty as they used to be back in my days, going deep underground. But we do manage to have Greg Shirtliff, who's the project director at Redstone Resources. Now, the announcement today, very exciting, Greg, and thank you for joining us. How are you now?
Good, thanks, James. Good.
Yeah, and a great day for it. So the West Musgrave project that you've got out in Western Australia, diamond drilling has uncovered significantly deeper and more extensive copper mineralisation, which is great, at the Tollu deposit, which is the key one. So again, thank you very much for joining us. Look, I'm gonna let you sing the song on this one, but look, I do love talking to the geos as opposed to the execs. The execs know that I love them. That's okay. So congratulations. If you could summarise the key highlights from today's drilling at Tollu, why are these results so significant for Redstone, specifically with that Tollu deposit?
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I'll tell the story from a geologist's perspective, because it's pretty exciting for the geo, for what we've hit. A single very deep diamond hole. You don't get to drill these types of holes very often, so it was very good. And it was. We've ended up with two very, very good results. We were after one, so it's pretty good. So if I can just set the scene for this hole was a co-funded hole from the government, and we were really after one thing. We were trying to drill beneath what was the deepest part of the Tollu copper deposit, which we thought was like a hydrothermal chute that potentially brought the copper up into the deposit system. And we were just looking underneath that chute for evidence of a magmatic nickel-copper cobalt PGE deposit like Nebo, Babel or Voisey's Bay. Now, we're after these types of deposits because they're very big. Nebo, Babel is only about 60 kilometres to the west. We've got very similar geology. We're in the same geology, the same geological setting as Nebo, Babel. And, that's a massive deposit, world-class, 1.3 million tonnes of copper at 0.3%, 1.2 million tonnes of nickel at about 0.3%. But the reason why we're very interested at Tollu is because Tollu is housed within a very big, large regional fault called the Tollu Fault. And if you can get a fault to go and move at the same time as you're pulling in these big magmatic intrusions that produce the Nebo Babels, you end up breaking them up and concentrating the metal. And so you end up with things like Voisey's Bay. So it's basically the same style of deposit. It's just had structure involved. And so you end up with massive sulfide rather than disseminated sulfide. So, that's a 140 million tonne deposit as well. But you look at parts of that deposit, you're up into sort of 30 million tonnes, grading at 2.6% nickel and 1.7% copper. So you're starting to high grade the deposits. Really, why we thought Tollu was really, really interesting, because we were getting the impression, and something that Redstone has always thought at Tollu, is that the copper in the quartz veins that come to the surface and are very high grade are actually sourced from one of these deposits at depth. So if we could get a signature of that the copper in the Tollu deposit was coming from one of these big, massive mineralizing systems, one, we could have one underneath Tollu. There could be more of it underneath Tollu. And two, it would mean that the prospectivity of the area would really be highly upgraded, because we know that we've got all of these gabbroic intrusions that are highly magnetic all around the project area that we've been starting to look at and starting to prove that are actually the right rocks to host these types of deposits. We've already got an inkling before we do this hole that we've got the right rocks around, but have we got them underneath Tollu? Okay, so we're hoping that underneath Tollu, which is housed in quartz veins and in what we call a felsic rock, we're hoping that there's a mafic rock underneath Tollu that potentially is producing this system. So that's all we're really looking for. Something like a Gabbro that is also host to the Nebo Babel deposit and the Voisey's Bay deposits, or some sort of geochemical signature to tell us that the copper in Tollu is coming from that sort of system. So that's what we're looking for. So we're drilling the hole, and we decided to drill the hole at this target, which I mentioned, the chute, but we wanted to go down the vein system to have a little bit of a look at Tollu itself, because there is no orientation on any of the structures yet. So Redstone have been drilling RC for a long time, reverse circulation for a long time. And so it haven't got any structural information on any of that geology, right? So we wanted to get some structural information. We've got a perfect opportunity with the diamond core to get that. So we drilled directly down the fault that is housing Tollu. And obviously the problem doing that is that it's difficult to drill, and it's hard to maintain your azimuth, hard to maintain your angles going down the hole. And we went through that first initial 10 meters of high-grade copper mineralization, which was underneath the Tollu, which we were kind of expecting to get. And then we kept going, and about the 300-meter mark, we started to realize, this is starting to be very difficult to control our angle. We may not reach our target. We decided to keep going. At about 500 meters, we started to get indications of Gabbro. We were realizing we were off target. We were not going to make target at about 500 meters deep, but we had Gabbro. We had the right rock. What's
the significance of Gabbro?
So Gabbro is the host to the Nebo Babel deposit and the host to the Voisey's Bay deposit. So in this particular geological setting, which if you really want to know it, it's a triple point boundary of 3 continents that come together and starts to split apart about 1 billion years ago. When you start to split those apart, you start melting the mantle, and mantle rocks start coming up everywhere, whether they're ultramafic or almost ultramafic or mafic, they're all can produce copper, nickel, all these types of deposits. So the key for that is, we wanted to get that. We wanted to get that Gabbro. So in consultation,
Gabbro is the host. So it's the same host that you've got at Voisey's Bay, the same host that you've got just across the road at Nebo Babel.
Correct.
You've struck it. It means that potentially, that's another great indicator that you've got the significance that's underneath there.
Correct. That's right. So, there's a chance that it could be a little offshoot or something. So we kept going. We're in consultation with the management of the company, technical director all the time. So the company decided to keep going and realizing we weren't going to hit the target. Okay. So we didn't hit the target. We ended up 130 meters away from the target, which when you're thinking about a 5 centimeter diameter core, that's a long way.
Yep.
But we hit high grade copper. So, and not only did we hit high grade copper, but we started in this Gabbro, we started hitting lots of small lower grade zones of copper as well. So it wasn't just, little limited pieces. It was actually, we're getting quite a lot of copper here, and we're in Gabbro. The Gabbro went all the way to the end of hole. So still in Gabbro at the end of hole. And we got those 2 high grade zones, over 1%, over 2%, good meters. And basically the Tollu copper system is there at 1,050 meters downhole depth. We're probably around 820 meters from the surface, but importantly, we went off target. We did not expect mineralization here. If you project a line directly to the surface, there's absolutely no indication that there's copper here at the surface. We are approximately 130 meters south of the previously known mineralization at Tollu. And we're about 400 meters deeper than the deepest copper ever found at Tollu.
And so there's copper. So the seam, I don't call it, it bends. We're getting a little bit too technical. I think that's
okay. Let's keep it back. Let's be a bit technical. It's interesting. I can do it with my hand up here. So if I have the Tollu fault doing north south like this, the Chatsworth prospect of the mineralization. So Tollu has got a little bit off here called Forio, and then the main zone here is a northwest trending zone. So the Tollu fault's like this, and you've got this northwest trending zone of the Chatsworth, which is the Tollu, which is the majority of the Tollu copper deposit. And we are kind of now way down here, right? So we could have hit another Chatsworth that's doing this, but because our drill hole went underneath and curved all the way around, we could be missing, because remember, previously we have had no orientation of that proper orientation of that copper deposit. We could have hit an extension. So if you assume we've hit an extension, so let's just assume that there's potential copper running from where the Tollu copper is to where we are, we've got another 800 meters of copper potentially in between, which we don't know about, right? Okay. So this is not, we didn't, I guess for me as a geologist, what's great about this, and I guess this does happen a lot as a geo, you go for one thing and find another. So this wasn't what we were doing. Like, we weren't there to try and extend the Tollu copper mineralization at all. But the other interesting thing is, all the way down the hole, it's brecciated and sheared. So the entire hole is structural deformation down the entire hole. It's only one hole, but you can't.
Well, you got
fluke that.
you got to go through them, Greg. I wanted to make this sort of it was supposed to be a quick and dirty sort of chat, but we've managed to get into some more sorts of stuff. So what's the next steps now? It's you've seen it, the grades are high, you found it down at a deeper spot than it has been before. It also shows that there is more potentially there. It's definitely in line with what's happening at Nebo Babel. You've got the Gabbro that's underlying it as well, showing that it's
So
similar.
Let me go a little
What's
bit further. James, I'll just go a bit further into that, because for me, there's two completely different things here. One is that we potentially, there's 38,000 tons of copper at Tollu, 800 meters downhole, we've hit more. Who knows how much we potentially of just copper, disregarding whether this is Nebo Babel or whatever. If we just assume that this is just a copper deposit, then how big is the copper deposit? We've got 800 meters of structural deformation. It's a massive shear zone. We could have copper all through this shear zone, right? So,
yep.
So that's the first thing.
Could none of these are certainties, which we've got to make sure that for any potential shareholders, it's a big disclaimer across the top of it. That's okay.
100%. It's absolutely can't say anything, but it's a 5 centimeter diameter hole, and I normally don't fluke things, so this is a fluke, right? It's pretty impressive. Anyway, so let's get on to the actual aim of the hole. So aim of the hole was, let's see what this looks like underneath Tollu. We've hit Gabbro. We started hitting it at 500, and we think we've got boulders wrapped up in the shear zone, and then at about 700 to 800, we hit it and continue to the end of hole. So Gabbro definitively underneath the Tollu copper deposit. The two major deep hits are in quartz veins in the Gabbro, but the final hit at 1,050, and this wasn't brought out in the ASX release, it is more associated with a alteration we call chlorite alteration. Now, in the veins up the top at Tollu, we also think that it's associated with chlorite. Why is that important? It's very important because chlorite is an alteration that's normally associated with the dissolving of a mafic rock like Gabbro. So there's a sign that actually what we've got here is where we're moving things out of the Gabbro potentially. We've got alteration of the Gabbro. So that's good, because as we go deeper, we've got the copper starting to look more like in the chlorite than in the quartz veins. But also, which you do see in the ASX release, I think it's figure 3, as soon as we hit the Gabbro, we start hitting anomalous cobalt. Now, cobalt's a bit of a signature for a mafic rock. And interestingly, if we take all of the Gabbro and mafic rock samples and we look at the association between cobalt and sulfur in our geochemistry, we get an association, which as a geologist and a geochemist normally means to you that your cobalt is as a sulfide, right? So that's one of the hints we're looking for. We're actually looking to see if we've got cobalt sulfides in Gabbro at depth. It does look like it. Now, we need to confirm with thin section mineralogy, and we need to look at maybe a scanning electron microscope to look at really in detail, because the cobalt, while there's some anomalous sections, it's not in really high grade, so we'll have to look at it very, very in detail. But the geochemistry is suggesting to us at this time that the cobalt is probably in sulfide form. Could be in the chloride alteration, could be disseminated through the Gabbro, we don't know, but it's one of the indications we wanted to see. So our aim to see if we've got a hint of something going on with a Gabbro rock underneath Tollu, looks like we have. So, that's really important for Tollu, for starters. So when we start thinking of the future of Tollu, we have to start thinking of how to plan for exploration. Are we planning for the copper? Are we just going to, drill in between copper, the top Tollu and the bottom Tollu copper we've now got? Or do we start strategically thinking of, okay, well, let's start thinking that we might have other mineralization associated with the Gabbro here, and let's start targeting that. But it also means that on the eastern side of Tollu, and this is explained in the ASX release, there's a very large body of Gabbro that we can see bits and pieces of at the surface. That runs for kilometers to the northeast. And then we've also got these other magmatic intrusions with magnetic anomalies that we've drilled and proven to be Gabbro as well, that we've got to the northeast as well. So in 2019-20, we drilled one of these magnetic intrusions. It was just a magnetic anomaly at the time, but we found it to be a layered mafic intrusion. And we found 90 meters downhole, so probably 60 meters thickness, actual thickness, 90 meters downhole, very low grade disseminated copper mineralization, not necessarily associated with quartz all the time. So probably magmatic. And so, we're already starting to prove that out there it's fertile. Tollu is looking like we've got some sort of association with the Gabbro. So it really opens up the project for the prospectivity for Nebo, Babel, voices-based style mineralization.
We've got 30 seconds left to talk about what the next steps are, and then I'm going to have to wrap it up now. Otherwise, I'm going to get myself in a bit of trouble here. So what are the next steps for us, Greg?
Next steps, so we're continuing on with the structural analysis of the hole, which will enable us to plan any extra holes at Tollu, which we would like to do. And we have another co-fund drilling grant there for another diamond hole if we wish.
That's important, yep.
Up to $220,000 of refund. And we also have won a co-fund grant for RC drilling out to the northeast on these magnetic anomalies out to the northeast. The government's interested also, obviously, in finding out what we're finding out. It's a new area for this sort of stuff. So it's, pretty good. So potentially that's up to about 180,000, I think, for refund grants. RC drilling, potentially diamond at Tollu.
Okay, well, brilliant. It's a great result, Greg. Look, I've got to wrap it up here. It does show that there is something that's under there. It's been a good conversation with a geo to actually have this conversation, because I think that the relevance of what has actually been found might be lost on people. So pay attention to what's going on. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to the company. They're more than happy to help. I can absolutely speak for that as well. So thank you very much, and good lucky strike. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, as I was told this morning, but look, it's gone and it's found something that's pretty extraordinary. I'm pretty happy about that too. Look, I'm going to get this out. I'm going to get this out to people and have a bit of a listen. There it is. Thank you very much for joining us today. An amazing conversation. Learned a lot. Greg Shirtliff, Project Director at Redstone Resources, ASX listing, stock code RDS, Romeo Delta Sierra. The only thing I learned in flight school was just the phonetic alphabet. So look, thanks very much, Greg. Have yourself a good afternoon, and I'll talk to you later on.
Thanks, James. See you, everyone. Bye.
All right. I'm James Whelan, occasional talking head for smallcaps.com.au. You have a great day. Stay safe.